Hello everyone and welcome back to the first AFLW Fantasy Fanatics round review of the AFLW Fantasy season. I'm your host Bails and you can find me at Bails DT across the socials. And joining me is my co-host and fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatic, it is Jaiden Poposky. Jaiden, mate, how are you? How did you enjoy that first weekend of AFLW?
Hey Bales, hey everyone. It's great to be here. And yeah, I think we both had a fairly good week. So yeah, we're pretty stoked to be here and yeah, talk through the weekend that was, coming off a bit of a high note.
Yep, yeah, exactly. Well, we'll go straight. I reckon go straight into it. Actually, but before we do, how many games did you get to catch on the weekend? Obviously, there's plenty going on. Obviously, a lot of games on the Saturday, back to back to back, and obviously there was I still think they probably could have put one extra game on the Sunday instead of having the two overlapping on the Saturday night. But how many games did you get to watch over the weekend?
Yeah, a few. I really liked how they did schedule them, and it's really satisfying that they're like all 2 hours apart, so you know exactly when each one's going to start.
Yep.
So yeah, most of Saturday. Um, and yeah, a bit of the other ones as well. So I still think like if you're not watching the games, then you're kind of missing out a little bit from a fantasy point of view. It's just so valuable for picking up on players instead of looking at that what they scored or centre bounces. Like it's not going to do anything compared to watching the game.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I watched a heap. I watched both Friday night games. Watched pretty much every game on the Saturday. Obviously, didn't get to watch the Geelong Melbourne game or much of it because I was watching the showdown, obviously. And then obviously most of the Sunday games, definitely that final one as well, which was North obviously playing very, very well there. But we'll get sort of straight into how we went over in round one. So, Jaiden, mate, how did you score in round one, and what's your overall rank at the moment?
Yeah, I got a 12.33. That's good enough for 600th on the dot. Pretty solid. Throughout the weekend, I was like a bit higher than that, and I was hoping to hold on a bit, but yeah, I didn't have many players left on the Sunday, so yeah, pretty happy with 600. I'm not sure where I was this time last year, but yeah, and I think overall I'm in a fairly good position. Like I don't think I picked any players that were like wasted picks. Like obviously picking Toogood is fine because she got injured, but I didn't have anyone that kind of just sputtered, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, or at least ones that were unique as well, because we did have a
Yeah,
couple of players that were very frustrating from the weekend. I just pipped you by 7 points. I got the 12.40, so that puts me in over rank of 481, which again I'm pretty happy with that considering there were a few players that, again, obviously with Bonnie Toogood injury, thankfully obviously she's owned by a lot of people, and just for the people that didn't start her, they bloody kissed. Like getting an injury from that popular a player. Oh, just unbelievable! But it was that was a bad hit. That was yeah, not good. And obviously, the news today is that Bonnie Toogood will be out for 6 to 8 weeks with an MCL sprain. So it is obviously a must trade. But at least she's still over $1 million. I know obviously we lost so much cash. Like looking here, we did lose nearly 300k, 279k with these price changes, but it is what it is. But crisis does create opportunity. This is people can go in a lot of different directions. You could side switch to another premium fold, or you can look for some value and you can maybe play around with it. So a few different things people might be looking at doing this week.
yeah.
Um,
Just quickly on Toogood as well. I saw people talking about how she was around 66% owned, and the fact that the higher ranked coaches wouldn't have her because um, they would have spent that money well elsewhere. In the top 1,000, it's actually 58.6%. So it's still pretty close to that
Still good,
66.
yeah.
So it's not that far off. So if you're in that position, I wouldn't be too worried because it's still over half and it's not that far away from the whole competition ownership. So yeah, you're not too far behind in terms of all the other teams around you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to be top 500 and still have Bonnie Toogood, I'm pretty happy with that. So in Bolter, not as much because I had Bonnie Toogood as a bit of a unique over Zali Goldsworthy. So that's what's that, 112 point swing. I'm still ranked top 200 in that. So you never know. We might actually be able to make a few moves there and do some things. But yeah, so we'll get into the +3 and -3. So Jaiden, why don't you kick us off? Who gets your +3 and -3 from the weekend?
Yeah, interesting. I would. Okay. I'm gonna give it to Maddie Prasparkas, I think. I was quite worried at halftime. I think she was maybe on 29 or something like that. And watching along, watching the Freo midfield just hit out, tackle the whole game. Wasn't very fun, but she got going in the second half. And I think that's credit to the matchup as well. Because we saw Nan score and go really big in the first half and then slow down. And then Prasparkas did well in the second half. So the matchup was still there for both of them to ton up. They just didn't do it at the same time, which is completely fine because, they played out the game and she saved that score and, to ton up, make a little bit of money as more of, I'd say probably one of my most unique, around 8%. So, I'll go with her.
Yeah, and obviously the pretty windy conditions and not very good conditions at Windy Hill. So if the game was at Marvel, might have been a bit better, but it is what it.
When I flicked over to that game, I was just thinking, "Oh no, what have I got myself into?" Because I also had Gabby O'Sullivan and Toogood, so 3 players in that game. Not great.
Yeah.
The minus three. It is tough because I did say before that I didn't really have any players that I regretted starting with. So I guess I'll go with Gabby O'Sullivan because she was on 53 at 3/4 time and ended up on 49, or I think. So that was a bit annoying.
I think it was a 0 point last quarter and got a tackle taken away. So.
Yeah, so that wasn't very fun. And she may have probably was just cramped, hopefully. But to be honest, I didn't really want to pay up for any forwards. I talked about it a lot. I didn't want to pay up for an F3 because, I was still a bit unsure about whether any of them would be worth paying up for. And it worked out all right to have her there. Like 49's fine for a price. She made money. But it could have been better. And it would have meant that I would probably hold her if she was fit.
Yeah, it's bloody frustrating. I've always thought, why? I wish Champion Data didn't add tackles or stats and then take away. I'd much rather just not add it, check if it's then, and then add it after, because you get the hope of, my player's on this score now, and then they get minus points. Whereas we all get that buzz when you check like Katie Brennan, for example, was on 47 at the end of the game, but then that +4 means everything because you get over 50, and then at the end of the weekend, the 51 actually wasn't too bad, and the upside's there. We'll talk about Katie Brennan when we go through the games very quickly, but my plus and -3, I'm actually going to give my +3. So a few of the midfielders went big. All 4 of my main mids went 95 or more, and they sort of did their job. But the player that did more than what I thought they were going to do was Jess Allen, 87. Definitely more than what I was expecting. I was thinking, when I saw Edmonds get a 70-odd, Ali Morford got about the same as well. A few of the rucks went. Obviously, Bim Strom would have been the ruck I would have loved to have had. But when I saw a few of these rucks go this 70, I thought, well, if Jess Allen can get a 60, 65, I'll be pretty happy with that. And then she ended up getting an 87. And we'll talk about her a bit more in depth when we get to that game. But the time on ground was great. Kicked her first 2 career goals. Obviously, the Port Rucks, as they did last year, giving up free kicks in positions. Jess Allen probably should have had 3 goals. Missed a shot, but hey, I'll take 2 goals and 87 points. I'm pretty happy with that. Made nearly 100K. She's she's at 790K now. So whenever I want to make that move over to whichever ruck I want, if it's an Edmonds or a Morford or a Strom or whoever, Jess Allen making cash is going to be quite good to get me there. -3 has to go to the only player that scored below 44 for me out of the whole team. And that, besides Toogood, obviously, I'm not going to give it to Bonnie Toogood, obviously being injured. But the player that has to get it, Kate Lutkins. What was that? 19 points in a full game of football. And she got a +3 after the game as well. If she didn't give that free kick away very, very late, she would have got at least a 20, which would have looked a lot better. But 19 points. I know she hasn't played football for a couple of years, but come on. 19. The ball was down there a lot. Weren't very good. I didn't like the fact she started on the bench every single quarter as well. That wasn't good. The game time was low, 66%. So I'm sure we'll talk about her in terms of when we get to the trade out part of it. But I think she'll be a player that will be discussed a bit there. So we'll quickly sort of whip through the games and just a few sort of key players to note there, and then we'll go through some popular trade sort of targets and then popular trade out targets, and then we'll sort of wrap up everything there as well. So, but I will quickly go through how our good friend, obviously our fellow co-host Mitch, went this weekend. So he ended up scoring if I've got up here, yep. So he scored. Oh no, that's got percentage. Where's the total point? You have to go to fixtures. Okay, week one. Here we go. So Mitch for the weekend scored 1164. So he got the job done in the Content Kraz Cup, which I'll go through in a second. His +3, -3 from the weekend. So he gave his +3 to Ash Riddell. Obviously, she finished the game off very, very strongly. Looked really good as well in a tough matchup. So she'll be a popular name as well if people are spending up in the midfield. And his -3 went to you don't sort of, you're not very happy when your round gets off with a unique-ish player in your defence that you pay up for, and they score a 25 in Geordie Allen. 25, not great. And yeah, so she might be traded out by a fair few people this week, I think. So,
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so that's his for the score for the week and everything. In terms of the Content Kraz Cup, obviously just a free version this year, so no sponsorship or anything like that this year. Probably didn't get it organised in time. Probably my fault for not getting it done there. But in terms of results from the weekend, so I was up against Liam. I didn't like the fact I had to go up against Liam round one, but hey, get the tough matchup out of the way, I guess, and got the job done by 54 points there, 1240 to 1186 there. JS and Jackson, duo from Sliding Doors. It's not a shocker. They both drew. They had the exact same team. 12.
I mean, I called it. I didn't know. I could have asked them if they had the same starting team, but it's just so predictable. And they did.
Yeah, unbelievable. So they drew. So draw to start everything off. You got the job done over Mel there by 26 points, 1233 to 1207 for Mel there. Which is probably unlucky for Mel, the fact that she was the only team to score over 1,200 but still lose. So she had a fairly good week there as well. The close game of the weekend, though, Will going down to Eloise by 5 points, 1185 to 1190. So really, really close there. And then Jono and Mitch, with Mitch getting the job done by 16 points, 1164 to 1148. So good for every coach, good start for everyone. Everyone's scoring 1148 or more, so which is not a bad start considering a few issues and stuff floating around. So that is how the league went for there. So we'll go through the games just very quickly. So obviously the first game, Sydney and Collingwood, with Sydney winning by 15 points there. Sabrina Frederick was massive, 118 points. She copped a couple of really big hits in the second half as well, but still put out a really strong score there. Laura Gardner had a first quarter being on 39. I was worried not starting her. But she did slow down a bit. We do know North Sydney Oval is typically not a very good ground for fantasy scoring. Only one player over 100 and only two players over 85, with Gardner being the only player there. And then even Benici 83. And she had a pretty big quarter in the, there was one quarter where she had like 14 disposals, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I was. Well, I know the second quarter she scored 29. I thought there was a quarter where she had a lot more, but fair enough, mate. It was just she was solid, but there scored that. Lucy McAvoy was good with an 81 there as well. Montana Ham didn't notice her in the first half, had a strong second half, scoring 60 there. Ali Morfitt scored 58, so I was a little bit off there. Only had the 13 hitouts. First game, obviously, with no preseason there, so she'll drop a bit in price and be a good target. Hayley Bullis with a 56 looked really good. 0 points last quarter, sort of sucked if you did start with her for that cash gen. Ruby Slisher scored 56. I'm still convinced she scored 60, and the people in the group chat will know that I was complaining all weekend about this not being added. She had a tackle, I think it was in the first quarter, and it didn't get paid. No idea why. But it is what it is. 56 is not too bad when she probably got unlucky with a few missed +6s there and could have easily been a 70 or an 80. Ella Head's got a 54 along with Chloe Malloy there as well. In terms of any poor scorers from the game, obviously Geordie Allen with a 25 there as well. So, not too great there. Any one of those players you want to touch on, Jaden, at all?
Yeah, that's just Jordan Allen doing Jordan Allen things. Like we saw it last year. She'd come out with a score like that. It's rough for owners. I guess the main one was the ruck battle, and Morfitt only played 54% of the game. So
Yeah,
that was the real
other thing I should
worry.
have mentioned, yeah.
And it's the kind of shock that she was the most owned ruck, apart from O'Dowd. So that was pretty crazy, coming off no practice games, injury, straight into round
we didn't
one.
We didn't know she's going to play round one.
Yeah, and she was a test, the most expensive ruck. So, I mean, it's kind of a shock to only play half the game, but it's also not at the same time. So I'm glad we went elsewhere with the rucks and didn't pay up for the most expensive.
Yeah, well, considering that she still scored a 58 from half a game with no preseason, it's probably a good thing for her prospects moving forward, because Sabrina Frederick obviously is a pretty tough matchup for rucks. So definitely one to keep an eye on, and that'll be Ali Morfitt's the one that maybe in 2-3 weeks' time, if I want to make that switch from Jess Allen to Ali Morfitt, if she drops a bit more cash, that's certainly something I've got on my radar. We'll move over to the other Friday night game, which was a shock, with West Coast getting the job done over a pretty wasteful Richmond by 1 point. West Coast got the job done there. But when all else fails, and talking about Richmond, Mon Conti is certainly one that doesn't. She's got 118 points. She was fantastic. And again, she had a few +6s in the first quarter that just were not picked up by Chem Dunn until the second quarter, which was very interesting. That I saw that and thought, yeah, it's +6 for Conti. And I'm looking on the phone and going, was Conti still only had one disposed when she's had like 4 or 5? But 118 points, very, very happy with that there. And again, had a tackle, I think, removed and then a handball added. So it could have been a 120, but 118, very happy with that. Ali Drenner had a good game there with Emma Swanson. Jess Hosking, 87, who we'll be talking about in some trade sort of targets across the lines, was very good there with an 87 with a couple of goals. Ellie McKenzie looked pretty good as well, scored an 81. Ella Roberts sort of mixed between forward and midfield like we probably thought she would with a 79. Charlie Thomas scored a 79 with 24 disposals with 21 kicks, which was fantastic. She had every single kick in as well. I believe the kick in stats aren't here. I don't know if you've got them, Jade, but I'm pretty sure Charlie Thomas had every.
I think 10. Oh, no, 10. It would have been 9. Yeah, because
so she had
9 behind. So yeah, 9 out of 9, 100%.
Love to see it.
Love
to see it. Yeah. So, yeah, Charlie Thomas, I was pretty happy with that pivot from Isla Sheeran as well. And I think people, if you made that switch, would be pretty happy with that as well. Katie Brennan, 51. Like, people probably, a few people started, obviously, like myself included. I know you didn't, Jaden. People looking at the score, 51, and going, that's frustrating. Considering the lack of forwards, big scores this week, the fact she had 4 free kicks against, she kicked 3 behind, and Richmond were bad. And there was a lot of almost kicks, like she'd get these half volley kicks, players would miss her on targets. I'm still pretty bullish on Katie Brennan, considering that if this is her worst game for the year, I'm pretty bullish on her moving forward. She's got some really good matchups still to come. Then we've got anyone else from the game here? No, not really, I don't think. I think it's probably most of them. Anyone you want to touch on from there, Jaden?
Yeah, Brennan is someone that I will be still looking to get in. But yeah, there's just a bit of unknown, and she lost 60 grand in the end. So I'm pretty happy with the decision to not pay up for now, but I'm not sitting back and relaxing. I definitely want to get her in. Yeah, like you said, there was a lot of points she could have gotten. And yeah, like the fixtures are still good with the double in round 5. So it's something I want to prioritise sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, good call. We'll move over to the Saturday game. So Giants and the Bulldogs, with the Giants getting a massive win here, 72-9. Ghazali Goldsworthy, someone that didn't start. It was so annoying she was getting, like, in the first half, it was pretty quiet. She had a couple of goals where they were almost gifted to her with 50-metre penalties, but then the second half, she just turned on, dominated the game. 117 was very good there with 4 goals. Nicola Barr had a strong game as well with a 116. Ellie Blackburn, at quarter time, I wasn't saying in our group chat or anything like that. I had the head wobbles going. She was on 38 at quarter time, and I was thinking, oh, this is brilliant. Look at this. Slow down. 95 I'll still take from a pod, and considering they got beaten by so much as well. But I'm still fairly bullish on her. She had 0 marks as well, and I think that, I know Liam was going on about this as well, that I think they didn't have many marks at all. I think they had like 19 marks for the game, and 10 of those marks were intercepts. So they only had 9 marks just on their own, which is absolutely crazy when you think about it. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Bulldogs are going to be that bad. I don't expect Bulldogs to be like a top 4 or top 8 team. They're probably going to be a bottom 4 side, but I expect them to get better, and I expect Blackburn to get a few +6s. She did drop a very easy one very late, which would have probably got a very close, if not over the ton there. Elise Parker scored a 94 as well, was fairly solid. Alice Edmonds scored a 73. She really slowed down the second half, looked like she was on track for about a 90-odd. Had a pretty quiet last quarter as well. 37 hit-outs are still good, though, there. Isabel Pritchard as well scored a 72. Was like she had a good amount of tackles, but there was a part of the game where she just got stuck on the bench. So, but 72 isn't horrendous there. Tani Evans scored a 63 playing forward, which was very interesting. They kicked 1 goal 3. Eilish O'Dowd was looking very good, and I was sort of starting to think maybe trading Jess Allen out and getting a red dot to play O'Dowd on field, but had a bit of an ankle injury very late in the third quarter, early in the fourth, I think it was. So, she didn't play. I think it was in the third quarter, so she didn't play in the last quarter, but she looked pretty bloody good, especially that first goal of the game as well that she kicked. I think it's the quickest goal. Was that? Am I right in saying that was the quickest goal ever kicked in an AFLW match?
I think 15 seconds or so. So really quick. And then she got another one. She got another one as well. So, great score considering the injury.
Yeah, exactly. Isabel Huntington, 54, playing defence. We will chat about her when we get to the forward. She was pretty impressive, even though it was only a 54 there. Michaela Pounger, 49, copped a bit of a knock to the ribs, a bit of a knee. I think it was from Jazz Smith, got her on the way through there. I don't think we know anything about that just yet. Hopefully she's all good for this week, but just something to monitor heading into the week when the injury reports and stuff come out. Hopefully she does get up there. Then there were some really bad scores and from a number of Bulldogs players. So there were a number of players that scored under 35, and a few of them were quite popular. So Jess Fitzgerald, who was a bit of a pod in the midfield that we knew was playing defence, 33 points. Then we had Ellie Gavalis, 22 points with only 4 disposals. Kirsty Lee Weston Turner only scored 11, only had the 1 handball for the game as well. And then the really surprising one out of all of them, and unfortunately she just had an absolute mare of a game. Elizabeth Georgia-Stathis scored 5 points. 5, and she gave away some really silly free kicks as well. There was like a 50-metre penalty she gave away. I think it might have been to was it Goldsworthy or someone? But
it would have been. It would have been.
It was just a brain fade. That was just a very surprisingly bad game from her, and didn't take any kick-ins either. So a bit of a concern if you've got her. She dropped a lot of cash. So first of all, Jaiden, I'll ask you about Elizabeth Georgia-Stathis, and then sort of if you want to touch on any other player, what are you doing with Elizabeth Georgia-Stathis? I was seeing a 5 from a supposed defensive premium.
Yeah, you have to trade now. She lost the second most amount of money this week, and the break even is still at 90, so you're in a bit of trouble there. So you need to get off while you can. But this is a worry with the Bulldogs, and it has been the whole preseason. We've known they were going to finish bottom 2, and you don't want to load up with too many of them, especially when it comes to the double week. They're playing against Brisbane and Collingwood, so don't just pick a lot of them for the double week. You still need to assess quality, and games like this, it seems like a blowout, but I can't be certain that it won't continue, considering the Giants finished I think bottom 4 last year as well. So it's a real disappointing outcome if you did have multiple Bulldogs. But I'm not sure if it will continue or not. But it's pretty much why I only started with Edmonds. Like, I was thinking about Blackburn, but it's just that worry of I wouldn't pick anyone outside of those 2 at all.
Yeah, no, I think I agree as well. Just as we're sort of recording live, I just seeing sort of the match review just came through, and a few suspensions. So Tani Evans got that 3-match suspension for that massive hit on Maddie Collier. Those 2 hits in the space of 10 seconds. It was crazy. There's melees going everywhere, and I know the commentators and that were saying we should get a split screen because everyone was involved, and it was a bit of a crazy sort of minute. So she got 3 matches for that. Elise Gamble got 1 game for rough conduct with Ash McCarthy there. And then also, Jazz Smith did get a $400 fine for the knee on Michaela Paunger. But then the other one that might be a bit interesting was Alice O'Loughlin, who looked pretty impressive for North Melbourne, copped a week suspension for that dangerous tackle on, I think it was Shannon Campbell as well. So, not a few interesting suspensions after the first week of AFLW. We'll move over to the Essendon and Freo game, with Freo getting the job done by 43 points. And Ash McCarthy, 139. She was in my team. There was a lot of players that rotated M4 for me. Settled on Ellie Blackburn and was fairly happy. But when Ash McCarthy goes 139, that's pretty impressive. So we'll chat about her when we chat to the trade-in targets soon. Mim Strom, 133 as well. That was a massive score. Also, the record number of hit-outs in the AFLW game with 48 there. 133 is a massive score, so be very happy you had her. Anya Tai was massive as well, up full with 120 with 4 goals, but just filled the stat lines. Had 15 touches with 12 kicks, 7 marks, 7 tackles, 7 hit-outs. It's fantastic. It's more than what you could ask for, so she'll be another player we could touch on there. Georgia Nanscorn had a massive first half, slowed down the second half with the 114. Maddie Prasparkas had a quiet first half, had a massive second half and scored 104. Hayley Miller scored a 92 as well. So if anyone started as a bit of a pod in the midfield, it was a nice score to get things going there as well. Steph Wales, 87, was pretty good there as well. Then we also had Maddie Gay got a 51. Gabby O'Sullivan scored a 49. Emma O'Driscoll, very surprising, scored only 23 points there with 8 disposals, 0 marks, 1 tackle. So she lost a fair bit of cash as well. So she could be someone we chat about as well there. And then you also had Ebony Antonio, who was the forward I was looking at, only scored 12, only had the 1 kick for the game. And then, obviously the big one, there was Bonnie Toogood with only 5 points as well. But probably got to note as well, she did only score 5 points from a quarter. So she still played the whole first quarter, was deep forward, and it wasn't looking too great. So, but obviously it sucked with the injury there. So any player there you wanted to touch on there, Jade?
Too Good's a frustrating one because, you very could have not picked her. And coming from someone who didn't want to spend money in the forward line, it did cross my mind, but not enough.
We did discuss that with Mitch on Friday. We said if you're going to not start one of it, is it Marinoff or Toogood? And we all said that we think Toogood's more of the must-have out of her and Mal, just because the forwards drop off so quickly. But we really should have gone the other way.
Yeah. Anyway, everyone's got a Nilly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And based on some of the teams I've looked at today that don't have her, they look very auto-filled. There was literally teams with Ellie McKenzie on the bench. So there's certainly some autofill teams that are in the high ranks because they didn't have Toogood in there. So
I'll tell you what, if I'd an autofill team and I saw my rank high, I would be going, I'm taking this seriously now if they weren't already. So you'd be very, very happy with the start with that. So, but do you want to move on to the next game?
Yeah, it's just a frustrating one because we talked about the practice game for Freo being so wet and how many tackles they got in that. But then this game was bad conditions as well, but also just the way the game was played. Strom had the record hit outs, but Wales had 35 herself. So I think it put 10 hit outs on the next highest game ever. I don't know if I really want to trade into some of these players because of just the hit out tackle nature of the game. But I said the same thing last week about Freo, and then they all came out and dominated. So
I'll tell you what, that could be something to note though for potential captains and stuff and trade in touch moving forward. Is if Freo are going to play this high stoppage, just tackle fest of a game, who's got them this week? Adelaide. Who loves a cuddle? Marinoff. It could be massive. So, that's definitely something to watch there. I wonder if Mitch might be shaking a bit, not having any Marinoff in his team. We'll move over to another surprise result here. With St Kilda getting the job done over Gold Coast by 54 points, 74-20. Very surprising result here. Charlie Rowbottom scored a 104, top scored for the game. For a lot of that game, looked like it was going to be a 115, 120, but did slow down a bit more in the second half. But 100 will still take that. Tyna Smith scored a 101, was very good, especially in the second half as well. Got going. Liv Vesely had a good first half, bit quiet in the second half with a 93. Whitford had a poor first half, good second half with a 90 there as well. Jessie Wardlaw dominated. Just a shame she's not forward for us. Otherwise, she could have been potentially an option. She scored an 84 there. Lucy Single scored a 67, obviously a favourite from a lot of people last year. Daisy Darcy scored a 64, and I thought it was game over in that second quarter. I think it was when she landed on that wrist. I thought that doesn't look good, but she came back on and she even seemed more angrier. Like she wanted to tackle everything. She's getting into a few people as well. So that was pretty good to see. So 64 was pretty good considering she missed a fair chunk of that second quarter there as well. Then we also had a few sort of cheaper players as well that were solid. It's like a Charlotte Simpson scored a 42, which is not too bad there. Serene Watson scored a 37, a bit quiet from her there. Katie Lynch a 36. Nicola Zenos, who I was quite intrigued because she had a fair few CBAs, but still only scored the 29 there. Jack DePie only scored 27, so that's a very poor score from her there. Hannah Priest, 24. A lot of nightmares from last year late in the season, so that sort of continued a bit. Ella Smith only scored the 23. Looked good in the first half. I think she's on 21 at half time, but only 2 points the second half meant she didn't quite score too highly there with low game time. So anyone you want to touch on there, Jaden?
People were pretty keen on Serene Watson, and I almost did it. But just based on what I could see, there wasn't enough of a role change. I said last week, it didn't seem like she was playing key defender that much last year. So if she was freed up, then yeah, but I just didn't see it. And we saw St Kilda defenders actually go really well. But yeah, we are a bit unsure about their game plan at the moment. So it could just be that 1 week. So Molly McDonald, 75, Spike this week. And even, Trudgeon even scored a 48. So like they kind of went a bit better than expected. So there wasn't as much for Watson, but yeah, a little bit unsure about how they're going to play, and they've certainly shaken things up in the past. So I think it could just be one where like Watson could come out this week and score her 70, but you never know which defender's going to go well, because it doesn't seem like a very clear strategy. But they played well, so it worked. I just don't think that there's that, and it was the same issue last year. There's just not that number one distributor back there.
Yeah, you got like Hannah Priest, Bianca Jacobson, like you said, McDonald as well, Trudgeon, and then you got Watson. Who knows who's going to be the scorer? So yeah, no, it's a good take there as well. Couple of close games on the Saturday night. So Geelong getting going down to Melbourne there. So I thought Geelong were going to win this game, but Melbourne getting the job done and starting their season off with a win. 2 tons here. So Amy McDonald, about to say Abby McDonald, but she didn't play. Amy McDonald with a 111 was had a big game there. Kate Hoare scored 100. Look fantastic. Kicked 3 goals, 23 disposals, mixed between midfield and forward. So yeah, just looked like pretty much a lot like what we thought in the preseason. Very, very good there. Beck Webster was really good. 89 points. I know Liam chatted about her a little bit in the preseason as a bit of an option there, and she looked pretty good. So I don't know, Jane, if you've got I think you do. You've got the CBA numbers. What was Beck Webster's CBA numbers from the weekend? Because I know she was splitting time a bit between defence and midfield.
No starting centre bounces for her. But yeah, it was like a really good matchup. I think from the top of my... Oh, they've got more good ones to come as well. So Geelong had the best starting run of any team. So as a pod, I'm glad it worked out for those people who went there, because, that 89 is an amazing score.
Yeah, no, she was very, very good there. Nina Morrison scored a 79. Sinead Goldrick, 72, was good. Game time was quite low, which was a shame. Started the game, started every quarter on the bench, which was very frustrating. A few times she came off the second time in the quarter. That's why game time was so low. But hey, 72 for a defender, definitely good. And she did split her time. I didn't get to watch this game. Did she? I know she was midfield, but did she play defence or wing or forward, Jaden? What did you?
Yeah, a bit of everywhere. Like kicked a goal and a behind, so it's kind of a mid. And then I kind of saw the end of this, and she was playing up forward.
I think kind of when Taylor Harris got injured, I reckon.
Yeah, like you'd expect someone with low time on ground to just be in one position, but she literally played everywhere. So hopefully that was more of a management thing, and we can see
it was a fitness test. Obviously, we
hopefully it was that, and not yeah, like if you've got these midfield rotation players, they can often have low time on ground. But if she's being used in other parts of the ground, then hopefully it was just a management thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, good call. Georgia Paspa scored a 70, one to watch, dropping in price. Obviously, we know that Geelong got a tough run for mids to start the season, but it does open up a little bit more as the season goes on. So definitely one to watch there as well. I think she had a bit of a couple of pre-season Eagles like quad thing. I think she went off at one point in the first quarter just to have it looked at, but I think she came back on and looked okay. But yeah, 70, she'll drop them in price. So one to watch there. Chantel Emerson, who's a bit of a unique defender, only scored the 53 there. Eden Zanker scored a 49. A few people looking at her as a forward. Then you also had anyone else I was going to mention? Yeah, Taylor Harris obviously got injured there with a bit of a shoulder injury, so something to monitor there, but it didn't look too great. She didn't play, I don't think, the last quarter, so she only scored the 19, but something to watch with what Melbourne do moving forward. Anyone you want to touch on there, Jaiden, or?
Nah, that's all.
Yeah, cool. We'll move on to the showdown. So the Crows getting job done by 14 points, 49 to 35. And we're not really shocked at the top two scoring players from this game. And Hatchard 123, Marinoff 121. Both were very good. Hatchard did this mostly playing forward as well and rolling up to stoppages. So something to note as well as it'd be good if we got dual position statuses midway through the season, because that would be massive if Hatchard got forward status. But something to watch maybe for next year. If she keeps this role, maybe she'll be a forward. She'll be the one that we do start with. But she was very good, along with Noffy there as well, who was very good. Again, 24 kicks, 5 handballs. Love to see it. Love to see the kicks. Jess Allen, 87 points. Obviously, I picked a few people out there did as well, and we were all very happy. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was the second highest scoring ruck of the round. Am I correct in saying, or equal second, along with Steph Wales? Is that correct, Jaiden?
Yeah, I would guess so, apart from Strom.
Yeah, Strom must be number one, but I think
Frederick as well.
Oh, sorry, Frederick. Yeah, so she was the third.
But yeah, that's a smash pick. And yeah, anyone who went there, like, amazing. Like, that's like, looking back, that's probably the best pick you could probably go for, just for the price. And yeah, there's not many better picks than that.
Couldn't have said it better myself. No, I appreciate you saying that. Very, very happy with the game. Sachi Syme, very impressive, 83 points. Someone we will quickly touch on as well when we get to the trade-ins. Sinead Goody, no surprises, 75, looked pretty good. Tough match against the Crows, but she'll be... They got the Dogs this week. This could be a game where she does go big, and I wouldn't be shocked if she saw her first AFLW Fantasy ton this week there. Ash Saint, 63, interesting. She played more up the ground with Gemma Houghton playing deep forward role, so that was probably something I didn't quite see coming. So Ash Saint could be someone we touch on with the forward targets there as well. Danielle Ponta, 57. Chelsea Randall, who everyone knows how much of a fan I am of Chelsea Randall, and as an option, she played bulk CBAs, over 90% CBAs in the weekend. Tia Chunt was out, something to note, but we will chat again with Chelsea Randall with the forward targets, because a lot of forwards this week we could look at targeting. Chelsea Wendland scored a 54. No, sorry, Caitlin Wendland, not Chelsea Wendland. Caitlin Wendland scored a 54, was pretty solid as a rookie pick as well. A few people had her on the bench there. Maddie Newman, a bit of a quieter game there with 53, but just the one mark, but had 19 touches there. Molly Brooksby scored a 47. Piper Window scored a 43. Only the 6 touches, but tackles were good. Brooke Boylo looked good at like throughout the game, but 41. Didn't get any CBAs there as well. Gemma Houghton only scored the 35. That's obviously a poor score there from her. Matilda Schultz didn't. It was actually Liv Levicki that played a lot more of the ruck. So Matilda Schultz didn't get much of it. Only scored 26 points. So a poor score from her there. Anyone you want to touch on from this game, Jaiden?
Pretty much went how we'd expect. I think it's important to keep in mind the Hatchard role when it comes to Ponta as well. Like, if you're just looking at the numbers and you didn't watch, Ponta continued the role of starting in the centre bounce and swapping straight with Hatchard. So that's something to keep in mind. You might not notice from the numbers. But yeah, she did that last year, kicked an amazing goal from the centre circle. So yeah, that's something that should continue. It's kind of like what Jake Stringer does or did this year, where he kind of started in the middle, but then just went to the forward line. So it is an option, but don't think that it's full-time midfield, because it's definitely not.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. All right, we'll move on to the Sunday game. So we got Hawthorn getting a good win over Carlton by 38 points. 66-28 there. AWST getting off to a very good start there with 29 touches, 10 tackles, and 106, but did have 23 handballs. So not what we want to see, but had a very good start there. Abby Mackay had a 102, so obviously a favourite of last year. Year before. Sorry. Jeez, I'm now getting bloody season mixed up. Yeah, she was great. 32 disposals there. Greta Bodie had a good game. Could have been a lot bigger. 1 goal, 4 there with like 10 stitches or something in her hand. So it was pretty incredible that she still played and played pretty well. So Aileen Gilroy played pretty well. The 72. Matei Breed had a really good first half, particularly second quarter, but went missing a bit in the second half. I think she only had the 16 points there and didn't play. And game time was low in the second half as well, which was surprising with how well she played. Casey Sheriff looked good, 67, forward option that we will discuss as well. Tilly Lucas-Rod scored a 63. Emily Bates a bit quiet there with only the 60 points that she scored. Then we had Dana Finn scored a 44. I was quite impressed with her game. There was a few times again where she got a little bit unlucky with a player missed her for +6 and whatever. So 44, I still think she's a pretty viable D5 on field to be having moving forward. I was pretty happy that I made that late adjustment of benching Lulu Beattie for Dana Finn because they gained 19 points in the end there. Then we also had Gab Pound 37, Karen Peterson 37. So a lot of the Carlton defenders not going too well. Beattie scoring a 25, Vesio 24. So a few low scores from there, but maybe that's just suggesting maybe Carlton defenders will score better than that, and they all struggled. So anyone you wanted to touch on from that game, Jaden?
Yeah, I agree with you on Finn. The role was definitely there on the wing, and she was around the ball a lot, like running. So it was a little bit frustrating as an owner because she was around it so many times, so many almost stats. But interestingly, just like in the practice game, she had a team high marks, even though it was only 3 this week.
Yeah.
No one else on Carlton for Carlton had 3 marks, and she did. So in the practice game,
very windy as well.
She had like 8 marks or something, so that's why she scored really well. But yeah, the role is there. I'm happy to keep her at D5.
Yeah, and she finds space as well. That's the one thing I've noticed watching her is that she can find space. And you say team high marks at 3, she could have easily had 6 or 7 from this game. So yeah, definitely something to be watching there. Cool. Move on to the final game. We'll quickly go through this and we'll talk about some trade targets and whatever. So we've got Brisbane going down North Melbourne by 44 points, 78-34. And again, no grand final premier has won the grand final rematch in the following season. It's pretty incredible that keeps happening. So North getting the job done again as the runner-up, losing the grand final. But Ash Riddell, 117 was fantastic, particularly her last quarter had 40 points. And 29 points in the third quarter, 28 in the second, and a bit of a quieter first quarter with 20. But again, just getting it done. Very, very good score there. Ali Anderson with 116 nearly broke the clearance record for any game, held by Charlie Rowbottom. I think she was 1 behind Rowbottom, so she nearly got there. But 116 in a game where they got they got beaten up pretty much, especially in the midfield. So Ali Anderson was a really lone hand in there, but she scored pretty well. Jazz Garner scored a 103. She pretty much rested forward for most of the last quarter and went off on the bench and didn't come back on, I think, with 6 or 7 minutes to go. So that could have easily been a 120. So I guess for all us non-owners that don't have her, it's a good thing because it means that she'll drop a bit in price. She dropped about 90-odd thousand, I think it was. So, but 103 looked pretty good. She's definitely a target that we want by around 5 when she's got that double game week. There, Alice O'Loughlin, we were going to talk about her as a trade target because she looked pretty good, scored 81, but with a suspension unless they challenge it. But I don't know if they will just because of the dangerous tackles and what we've seen in the men's with the suspensions there as well. Then we had Emma Carney had a massive start to the game. I think she had like less than 20 points for remaining 3 quarters. So it was quite surprising. The ball wasn't down there much, but scored a 57. Courtney Hodder scored a 56. Had a couple of CBAs, but not probably as much midfield time. She rolled up a bit as well. But I guess Brisbane, bad loss. Scoring a 56 might not be too bad there. Vicky Wall was decent as well with a 52. Nat Grider scored the 49. Ruby Tripodi scored a 44. And again, another one I was going on about in our group chat. We know about this, that I was saying she was missing a +6. She had 4 and they only added 3, but they finally added it. But she's pretty quiet after quarter time as well. But 44 against Brisbane, low game time in the heat as well. That could be a bit of a factor there. But with Jenna Bruton come back, that could be a bit of a concern. Nicole Bresnan only scored the 40 as well, but most of the defenders for North didn't score too great. We know Brisbane isn't a great matchup. Then we had Kate Lutkins with just the 19 points. So I think she might have to go. So anyone you want to touch on there, Jaiden?
Yeah, I was with you on Tripodi. Like the stats were a little bit slow for her, and I was making sure to have a look because at that point I was falling ranks and I needed any points I could get.
I actually, when watching that game, during the second quarter, because we're having this chat in a group, and a few people say, no, she only took 3. And I was hell bent. I'm like, no, she took 4. I saw her take 4. I went back and just skimmed through the first quarter, and I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm like, there's 4. They're missing 6 points. Hopefully and then they did at like 3/4 time. So it's very interesting that they waited till then, but regardless, it got added.
The roll was really good. So 44, like it could have been a lot better. I think she was on maybe like 25.
She had 30 points in the first quarter. 30 points in the first quarter.
Yeah, if you add that extra mark. So, that was a little bit frustrating because, she played the Bruton role and that's not going to be there next week. So that's one to watch.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Alrighty. Well, that is the games recap. So we'll quickly go through sort of some sort of trade chat here. I think we'd be probably remiss if we didn't start with the big issue of the week, which is Bonnie Toogood, with 66+% of people owning her and only scoring the 5 points, being over $1 million. There's a lot of options this week that you could go a lot of different ways, Jaiden. Like you could go pretty much a straight swap to a few players like an Anya Tai, like a Kate Hoare if you didn't start her, a few players like that, or you could go down a bit cheaper. So what are you looking at doing with Bonnie Toogood this week? What have you sort of played around with?
Personally, I'm pretty keen on Courtney Hodder. Thought the way she played was pretty all right, even though the score wasn't the biggest, but she looked all right and they got flogged. So I'm hoping that that isn't reflective of what is going to happen in the future. And I think just watching, she seems like someone who's decently safe for a top 5 forward. And someone that obviously has the double pretty early. So that's kind of the thinking there. I did do some numbers on the most traded out and in quickly. So Bonnie Toogood, 6,900 trade outs. Lutkins, number 2, Geordie Allen, Georgia Stathis, and Vesio are the most traded out players to Monday evening. Jess Hosking is the number 1 traded in player.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, 3,500. So that's where most coaches are going. In the forward line, the replacements are Anya Tai, Alice O'Loughlin. So coaches will need to reverse that one. Zali Friswell, all the Cats half forwards did pretty well. Ash Richards from St Kilda played well. She was someone I had my eye on. So I'm disappointed I didn't go there. But that's the most trade in. And Ash McCarthy is also in there as well in the midfield.
Yeah. There's a lot of good options. I'm actually probably surprised that Ash McCarthy's not the number 1 trade-in player, if I'm being honest. So, very, very interesting there. With the forwards, right, is that looking here, only 2 players scored over 90, over 85. The third one was actually Alice O'Loughlin, and they were the only 3 players that scored over 80 was Anya Tai, Kate Hoare, and Alice O'Loughlin. Then you had a few players then you had 3 players in the 70s, and everyone was below 70. So you look at you look at your Courtney Hodders who scored a 56, Katie Brennan scored a 51. They're not far off the sort of top scorers of the week. So sort of my question to you, Jaiden, is that with Bonnie Toogood, are you just straight swapping her to Anya Tai, for example, who looked really good, who's obviously expensive, or even I know Gemma Houghton scored poorly, but it's got the Dogs this week. You could look at something like that. Or is it a case of this is the chance where you save your cash, you get someone in the 700s or lower, find a bit of value, and then you can use that money to maybe fix up a Kate Lutkins, fix up a Georgia Stathis who lost a bit of cash, fix up someone else in your defence or another position. Is that sort of what you'd be looking at? Would you be saving money, or do you think there is an argument that you could just move straight across to an Onyutai, even a Kate Hall?
The restructure is the most popular at the moment, based on the fact people are getting Hosking in and trading out Lutkins. I'm in that camp of getting a downgrade. Obviously, I didn't start with many premium forwards for this exact reason. Like, if we're not keen on any of them, like, I'm not going to pay up for them. So I will be getting hotter. But I think the restructure's going to be the most popular thing to do. Because like, I guess Ty is the best option, but it's actually an upgrade. And also,
he's over $1 million now as well. Went up nearly 150K. They got the Crows this week. That could be a
so
the
Crows is the annoying thing. Just quickly, her break even is around 53, so you could get a little bit out of that. But yeah, it doesn't like speak to me on paper as an amazing trade.
We have seen she can drop low scores sort of if they have a tough matchup and she doesn't get involved. So it's a bit, I don't know. When you pay over $1 million, you want to be like, for example, if you didn't have a Kate Hoare, I think I'd be fine doing a straight swap or upgrading a slight bit to Kate Hoare and having her as the F1, because I think she will be this year. Obviously for most, because obviously Bonnie Toogood's missing majority of the season. I think Kate Hoare will be the clear number one forward. Like, she looked good on the weekend. So is that probably the one where if you're playing up someone you didn't start a Kate Hoare, you'd be happy just to make the switch?
Yeah, definitely. She, like, when we saw Brennan score low and Toogood get injured, there were some coaches that were almost like, oh, well, I need to get rid of Hoare as well to like have money for next week. And like, I couldn't recommend it less. She's going to be very close to the top 5. I think probably locked in. And just based on Melbourne's kind of rotations, and they don't have a lot of scorers. So yeah, go there. I'm just going to,
as well.
I'm going to, like, she has a really late double round, but you will be keeping her for the whole year. And I guess that's the same thing with Ty. If you are trading into her, you're going to want to keep her for the whole year, I think. So if you can kind of wait that long with her, like, you want to be trading into someone you're confident you're going to keep if you're paying up.
Yeah, agreed. We'll just go through a couple of options here, because forwards is where a lot of people obviously have got to do a trade this week. Katie Brennan, obviously got a good run still. I know she had a lower score, but I was still could definitely take a fair few positives out of that game. Is that probably where you're landing as well? That if you didn't start with her, you're probably looking at going, well, I'm going to get her 60K cheaper now than what she was, 59K cheaper than what she was. And she looked pretty good considering she gave away so many free kicks and missed 3 shots a goal.
Yeah, as I said before, she's someone that I definitely want to have. The fixture was something that I was considering when it comes to starting her. The break even is now 78 and she's priced at 67. So she's getting close to the time to get her. But I like Hodder is a bit cheaper to be able to afford better elsewhere. Yep. So I might just have to wait one more week. But yeah, I'm a little bit it will be scary because a lot of people own her. She's, let me have a look. She's 36 in the top 100, around 30% in the top 1,000. So that's quite a bit higher than her actual ownership. So that's someone I'll be a bit scared of.
Yeah. Well, I hope she goes big. Obviously, as an owner. Gemma Houghton, thoughts? Obviously, low score on the weekend. The Crows, obviously, it's a tough matchup. Did play a bit deep for, but she does have the Bulldogs this week.
You'd be bold. I probably prefer Ash Saint, just based on what you said before about the roles.
270.
Because I didn't watch much of this. I was watching the last quarter of the closer game, and then KO was like being really annoying, so I couldn't switch over. But yeah, Houghton 92 break even. So if you you pretty much are going for this 1 week kind of play and hoping she can get to that, I guess. Because what she got after that, she's got Freo. They were a little bit difficult on the weekend, and then North. So, you'd be going now trying to get to round 5 for the double week. I think it's something I'll consider a bit closer once I've had a better look at the roles that they're playing.
Yeah, agreed. Just a couple other players to touch on the forward line. The Crows duo, Danielle Ponta, Chelsea Randall. Obviously, Chelsea Randall being the cheaper one there and playing 90+% CBAs. Any interest from you, or do you think they're good options?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we were like almost saying that we were picking Randall when it opened to try and get her ownership up, so the autofill would put her in. And like, if you told me there's a forward that's in the 700s, plays 87% time on ground, has 60% of the kick-ins, and then just a casual 94% centre bounces as well, like I would have picked that straight away if you told me. So it's pretty funny. She's an option with that. And
she played Tom Stewart role. That's exactly what she did.
Exactly. The thing that I didn't pick up on, well, I did, but I didn't think about it deeply, was that Tia Charlton didn't play. So
do you think that affects? It would affect it somewhat, but do you think it affects it too much, or do you think this is just Chelsea Randall's going to play this midfield role, go into defence? Because we have seen Tia Charlton, and we saw Anne Hatcher on the weekend do it, where they'll play forward, but then they'll roll up. So Tia Charlton last year was the fourth midfield the whole year. She would, if she wasn't in the CBA, she was a fourth. She'd be stay half forward and push up. Do you think it could just be a case of where Anne Hatcher just going to play the role she does, where she'll go sort of wherever they need them, but then they might just go, Tia Charlton, you start half forward, Chelsea Randall, you start in the centre bounce, and as soon as the bounce is done and the ball sort of goes forward or wherever, Chelsea, you go back, and Tia, you sort of come into the stoppages. Is that sort of what you could see it going, and that still makes Chelsea Randall a good pick?
Yeah, I'd love to watch more of the game, because I suspect the fact she only scored, Randall only scored 57 is purely for that, like, it's the exact same score as Ponta. So it's just that start in the centre bounce and then move somewhere else. So I probably won't be picking either of them purely based on centre bounce numbers, because if we've got Hatchard and Charlton who can just go into the mids afterwards, like we saw on the weekend with the Freo game, they just had so many stoppages around the ground. So if I'm picking a player based on centre bounces, I want them to actually be a midfielder. I don't want to pick players that are actually just playing as a different role, because that's where your match footage helps out compared to the centre bounce numbers. Yeah,
I think with Danielle Pond, it's probably a good point where she starts centre bounce, just moves forward. But I think with Chelsea around, this could be something very interesting where she could get these disposals and tackles in the clearances, but then taking the kick-ins and getting maybe some +6s back there and getting a bit of the ball. So definitely someone I'm keeping a close eye on. Obviously, Ash Saint is someone with a good matchup this week at 611K. With again, Bulldogs matchup could be very good. So she's someone to watch. Obviously, we talked about Courtney Hodder before. That was still pretty good, considering Casey Sheriff had a decent game for the Hawks. I'm still a little bit worried about her ceiling. I don't know if she could just drop a 40. She kicked 2 goals to get that 67, which is a bit of a flag there, but someone definitely to note there. Obviously, Gabrielle Sullivan scored a 49, but obviously the other one that's quite cheap that we're keen on. Ellie Hampson had a good game as well with a 52 in a heavy loss, but obviously Isabel Huntington is one I think we're both quite keen on at 470K. What did you like from her game on the weekend?
Yeah, like playing defender, and she's made an All-Australian. Is that correct in that role?
Yes, yep. One of BNF as well, I think, for the Dogs when she played there.
So pretty much every single good player in the AFLW has played for Western Bulldogs and are now flying their craft at another club. But
it's like the Gold Coast of the men's.
So that's definitely one that I'm pretty keen on playing in defence. Like, we don't want to pick forwards in the forward line, really. So 470K is very solid. And considering, like, it was against the Dogs when the ball wasn't there heaps. I'd like to see her kind of like how she scored a lot of those like marks pretty high.
Well, I'll tell you, because I watched this game and I watched it closely because I was watching Izzy Huntington because I wanted to start with her. I just couldn't fit her in. The thing that impressed me the most is the Giants made a conscious effort to do these little short chip kicks and hit up leads. And they're actually, when they switched the ball a fair bit, and Izzy Huntington was involved in more the second half. The first half, not as much, but the second half when they switched it, she was the player that was getting involved. A little bit, reminded me a bit of like Luke Ryan. They'd chip it back 15, 20 metres. She'd take the mark and then get, obviously, we want it to be the good Luke Ryan, not the bad Luke Ryan where there's no chip mark there. But I think this could be definitely something to I think she's a great option at 470K. Going to make cash. Could easily put her on field. I'm a big fan of this pick. So, I'd be definitely looking at her there as well. So I think it's most of the fours. We'll quickly touch on the rucks. I think obviously the main one is like Mim Strom, Sabrina Frederick. Are you paying over 1.1 million for them now, Jaiden? Or do you think that, or is the option that you'd be going for if you're going for a ruck, is it Jess Allen?
Yeah, so I guess who are you trading out?
That's
like who did you start with in there? I'm not sure if there'd be any rucks that I'm thinking, like apart from Morfitt, but then even then, like
you're probably not
really low time on ground and still did all right. Like that could be someone who you trade out and then she tons up when you trade her out. So I don't know if there's any rucks that I'd
Matilda Schultz. If you started Schultz, you could probably move her, but I guess you're definitely probably going her to Jess Allen. That's probably what you do. Cash, maybe what was it?
Yeah,
40K, 47K.
Yeah, I don't think I would pay like too much for that. I suppose, it's not really that expensive compared to the midfielders, so you could do it.
But you're probably not going up to a Strom or a Frederick, are you? They're just too expensive.
Yeah, I think Allen. It has to be Allen, just based on the number one ruck was well and truly there. I guess the only consideration is like you could get Sabrina for the next 3 weeks and go into the double round. But yeah, that's probably the only other option.
Yeah. Moving to the midfield, again, probably not where a lot of people are shopping this week, apart from Ash McCarthy being the main one. What are your thoughts on Ash McCarthy? Do we need her? Do you think that if you started with the two rookies on field, do you think it's a viable play to go Bonnie Toogood, say down to a Izzy Huntington, and then go, I don't know what rookie go up, but let's say you had a rookie that didn't fire, you go them up to Ash McCarthy. Is that something that you'd consider?
Yeah, I think so. Because it's kind of a similar situation of like, who have you got at M4 or M3, and you're trying to get to a from a rookie. It might be a little bit hard, but Toogood opens that up if your defense is okay. But the game was amazing from her. Backed it up from the practice game, and like I said before, it is a little bit concerning just how many tackles there are going around and stoppages, but they're playing the Crows this week. We saw the Port midfield go quite well against them, considering the quality of the Port midfield and how much experience they have, which is like pretty much nothing. So I think she can go pretty well this week. Just quickly, the break even is so she's priced at 84, so still a bit of room there to grow, considering you'd expect her to probably do 100s from here, break even at 43. So it is the pick that you want, because like I said earlier in the preseason, like there will be someone from Freo that will want. Personally, I have 4 mids already, so I'm a little bit disappointed that I don't have her, but I don't think I'm going to be able to, I don't know if I'm going to focus on that so much.
Yeah, I'm the same as well with Ellie Blackburn there. I've thought about it. Could I go Ellie Blackburn down to Ash McCarthy bank couple 100K? But Ellie Blackburn's got Port this week. It's at the MCG. I expect the Bulldogs to be better than what they were against Giants. They were pretty bad, and a few of their senior players as well some pretty costly mistakes, as I said as well. So yeah, I don't want to trade Ellie Blackburn just because she'll probably go 120 on my head. So yeah, I probably agree that if you had the 2 rookie mids, it's something to look at. But I think if you've got a premium mid, I probably wouldn't be looking at trading. Sachi Son there as well was an option at 550k. Had a good score of an 83. So I think you're still just okay to get her. But if you don't get her this week, I don't think you can get her anymore after that. And Ellie McKenzie had a good game as well, but against West Coast, 81. I'm not sure she's got enough upside to be a pick that we want to make enough cash. Moving into defense, and then as we wrap up, obviously we talked about Jess Hosking being the most traded player, scored an 87, 674k, kicked a couple of goals. What are your thoughts on the option, Jaiden? Is this a good option? Could you go again, like Kate Lutkins or a rookie? A lot of defender rookies didn't go as well, besides maybe a Dana Finn. Serene Watson did okay, but most of them struggled. Could you go bring Jess Hosking? Your thoughts?
It's not the most friendly role that you could ever ask for as a half forward. But yeah, 2 goals, very nice. And the most traded in, which I'm a little bit surprised by. But I guess that's all people can afford with Lutkins. Her break even is 26, so that's pretty solid.
Yep.
And price at 52 at the moment. So yeah, I think with the double game coming up, like it's just a very solid move.
That's the kicker, I think. I think that's the kicker. The double game week in round 4, you have her for that. You move her on in round 5.
And you do also, like something I'm thinking about is whether Swanson returns or not. Because, yeah, that was the worry with a lot of the West Coast team. Like, is Swanson still a very important player for them? Is she going to take up a lot of the points? So, I don't know. She's probably like my 4th trade, if that makes sense. Like someone that I would get, but I like the 3 I have at the moment. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I can see why people are doing it. You just want a 3-week play. But do keep in mind that the pricing is only a 3-week system. So like by the double game, you'd want it to be going well still. You're not going to be relying on this round 1 score in the double game at all.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing I don't like, I'm not a huge fan of the role. She played a bit too much forward for my liking. Probably got a bit lucky as well. A couple of goals sort of fell sort of to her. Though, again, great. She had a fantastic game. I think the fact that she's got Essendon, who we saw last week struggle, and Bonnie Toogood now being out as well is another sort of a big blow. It is over in the West. That's not a pretty good matchup. We saw a fair few of the Freo forwards go quite well. Obviously, look at Onyutai and a few of those other players. Then they've got the Bulldogs, and then they go into their double game week. So as much as I'm not sure of the role, as a 3-week play, I think it's a good play. She's going to make some cash, low break even. It's definitely something I'm looking at, definitely going from Lutkins up to her, because I don't think I've got enough to get a forward I want and then get that Lutkins up to someone I want. And I think Hosking's probably the one I can get to. So I don't mind the play as much as the role sort of gets a bit iffy. I think Swanson won't affect her as much because she played a bit more of that forward role. I think Swanson will affect maybe like an Ali Drennan, for example. Maybe she'll take some of the points off of her and whatever. But I think Bella Lewis went off with a bit of an injury. I think she'd be okay. She seemed okay even after the game celebrating, but we'll have to just something to note there as well. Is there any other defenders that sort of you can, obviously you mentioned Daisy Darcy as well, obviously a bit of an injury there as well, but played out the game. A lot of defenders actually struggled this week. Like we saw a lot of poor scores from premiums. Is there anyone that you're sort of really keen on bringing in, or do you think it's sort of just really the rooks? If maybe Dana Finn, if you didn't start with her, you could bring her in as a rookie, and maybe it's like Hosking. That's about it. Is anyone else you like besides her and maybe Daisy Darcy?
Yeah, well, I suppose the only other rookies that went well were Kemp from Hawthorn with a 56 and Morecambe from Essendon, played really well for 58. So they're a consideration for me from Lutkins. But yeah, I'm not sure if I trust them on field. At the moment, I've got Daisy Darcy in just because I really liked her scoring potential. And yeah, to be honest, if Gabby O'Sullivan plays this week, then I could actually end up with Hosking. that could work out. But yeah, overall, I think that's it for the defenders.
Yeah, I agree as well. Anything else you want to touch on? It's been a long pod. I will be keeping, I think what I'll do in the future is we'll talk about the main issue a bit more in depth, but I'll leave the recaps for the games. I'll just do like maybe 3 good scores, 3 poor scores, and then we'll leave it at that instead of going through the scores. So we'll do that for next time, but you live and you learn. So we'll do that for next one. But anything else you want to quickly touch on before we sort of wrap up?
No, I think that's all. But yeah, very happy with how we both went in round 1, and I think we're in a pretty good position to like kind of trade to get ahead. So that's what I'm pretty excited for, because with the 3 trades in this, like, you don't ever really feel like you're behind. It's just about whether you can trade for the future games, and yeah.
No, agreed. I think if again cross opportunity with this Bonnie Toogood injury, you can go a lot of different ways, and I think it's going to certainly be an early separator for the pack. I reckon it could be, certainly if you get it right, you could really gain rank and make up those points that you might have like lost. Obviously, with Bonnie getting injured very early on. So, that'll do us. What are your early trade plans, Jaiden? Obviously, game didn't open too long before we recorded this, so probably haven't been able to tinker too much. But what are your early thoughts? Obviously, Toogood's got to go, but what else are you thinking?
Yeah, so Toogood to Hodder and Lutkins to Daisy Darcy to get a little bit more money, and it perfectly leaves me with $0. Was Gabby O'Sullivan down to Huntington, so that's my trades at the moment. And yeah, I'm fairly happy with those purely because they leave me with no money, and they're 3 players that I do like as trade-in options. So yeah, I'll go with that for now. The main considerations are Tripodi if Bruton comes back, and also whether I want Hosking or not.
Yeah. No, that's I'm looking at Lutkins up to Hosking. That's one, and then going Bonnie Toogood down to like an Izzy Huntington. So like preferably, I probably would want to trade Ella Smith out, but it only gets me to 5-7 force. There's no real forward that I'm probably looking at targeting there. So it would just be maybe grab another rookie in the forward line. I have thought about. I know Ruby Tripodi played well, but Jenna Bruton coming back, low game time. I'm not sure she's going to be like mass in terms of scoring. So even trading her, I've got 695. I'd be able to get maybe an Ash Saint for Ruby Tripodi there. And obviously if Michaela Pounga misses as well, that's obviously the other option I can consider there as well. Or I don't worry about Jess Hoskin. I get maybe a Serene Watson type. I don't like around the 400k. Play them on field at D4 and then look for a different forward like a Hodder or Chelsea Randall. So a couple of options I'm looking at, but that's sort of currently where we're sitting, and still got a few days to go to worry about that as well. So beautiful. That'll cut us. Long pod. First round review. Obviously, we, as I said, I'll learn that we'll keep the game recaps a little bit shorter, and we'll chat a bit more in depth about stuff. But I think we covered a fair few of it anyway. But Jaiden, mate, where can the people find you across the socials, and where can they find the podcast? It's got plenty of good info now that we're into the season.
Yeah, over on the site, statsbyjaiden.com.au. I've put up the top 100, top 1,000 ownership that I was talking about in the pod. So that's up there. I'll put the break-evens up soon. They've slightly changed it, so the prices are a little bit slower to move this year, which I think people will enjoy. So I've got a bit to work out there before I put them up, but that close, the ones I quoted will be pretty okay, I think. So yeah, over on the site if you're keen to check those out.
Yeah, beautiful. Make sure you check it out. And you can find me at Bails DT, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans on Twitter as well. And you can find Mitch at Ball Boys Fantasy on Twitter as well. I'm sure he'll be back with us on Friday for our live show. It will be obviously with the earlier game there. We're looking to go live at about, what's that? I'm just looking. So about 3 p.m. Eastern time, I think, because we'll go live for about an hour, leaving half an hour after for people to get their team. So we'll probably go live around there, but we'll let people know when we're going live later on in the week ahead of round 2. Looking forward to that as well. And again, make sure if you haven't enjoyed the Open League, you can still keep doing that. We had over 1,200 people join, so that's amazing support. So thank you for everyone. So I've just had a look. We've got 13 coaches in the top 100 that are in the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics League, including the second ranked coach as well, Angela's team there, who had a very, very good week there. So shout out to her for a fantastic weekend, leading the comp early on as well. So beautiful. Alrighty, well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you did enjoy it, obviously, if you watch on YouTube, make sure you smash a big thumbs up on the video. That would be very much appreciated. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We did pass 2,700 subscribers the other day, so thank you very much for that. 2.8K is the next goal. If you're listening back on the pod, please give us a 5-star rating and review. That'd be very much appreciated. And yeah, we'll catch you guys live on Friday afternoon for our live show. So thanks everyone. Have a good week, and we'll chat to you then. See ya.